Hi there. I'm glad you're here. Welcome to Beyond the Frame. I'm your host, Ryan Vanderhei, and I've learned some of my most valuable life lessons from my favorite TV shows and movies. Sure, these works of art entertain us, offer us an escape, and even tap into our emotions. But there's often one E that's overlooked.
And that is educational. If viewed from a different perspective, these stories and their characters can help us to learn and develop as human beings. I'm your co-host, Joe Parente, and it's our mission with this podcast to share these unique perspectives with you so that you can grow from the show.
Wouldn't that be nice?
It would be. What a wonderful world it would be.
The topic of today's discussion, Gladiator 2, and how living only for yourself can leave you lifeless.
Ooh.
As always, there will be spoilers ahead, so proceed with caution. And be sure to leave a like, rating, or review wherever it is that you listen, as it really helps the show. Shall we begin?
Let's do it.
The answers that you're looking for are lying just beyond the frame.
So, in one of our last podcasts that we recorded,
Yeah.
Joe, you brought up a story about how when you were at USF and the Dalai Lama spoke, and you took one thing away, and that was if you want to ease your pain, you should put your focus on others and help them to ease theirs. And this kind of had my wheels turning when I was watching this film.
Okay.
There's a quote that I've quoted before. It's one of my favorite quotes. People who know me will
Quote
be
it
sick
again.
of me doing this, but
Come on. No
there's a
worries.
Horace Mann quote, "Be ashamed to die, having not yet scored some sort of victory for humanity." And I thought that was a great jumping off point here for this film,
Okay.
because we have very contrasting characters in this, where there are some who truly are living for their own benefit and not concerned with anyone else, and they're kind of just selfish in their pursuit of their own accomplishments or goals. And then we have characters who care about the people around them and want the betterment of society and their friends and family, and they don't really, they're not a bulldozer plowing through people in their way to get what they want. And so I thought that that's what I kind of wanted to focus on here with this film.
Okay.
So I'm going to ask you a little bit of a question here, get the gears turning.
Okay. You might hear them squeaking.
Is there a time in your life where you've been selfish and you didn't consider those around you in the pursuit of a goal?
I'm trying not to squirm as you ask that question.
it's
so like,
kind of
maybe.
Sort of getting into the weeds there,
Yeah,
digging in the...
definitely for sure. For me, that it's just been things that I want on a like personal level. It hasn't been anything like I really want that job and I'll do anything it takes and I'll bulldoze all these people. It's been more like she's really pretty and yeah, it's been more along the lines of those kinds of things.
Sure.
But have I done that? Yes, countless times. I think this is something we've talked about on previous podcasts. So, hopefully as you get older and maybe wiser and maybe smarter, maybe kinder, you don't have as much of that self-centered perspective where you don't think about ramifications. You don't think about how things are going to affect other people. You just bulldoze ahead.
Yeah.
It's what I want, which makes it a good mission.
Yeah.
Because I want it.
Yeah.
So it must be good. It must be right.
Right. I think there's a balance in everything.
Sure.
In almost everything
can
in
find
life,
it.
there's a balance. It's just difficult to find sometimes. And I think the same is true for the pursuit of your goals and your accomplishments and what you want to do with your life, and how that trajectory affects the people around you.
For sure.
Easiest example for me is coming out to LA.
Okay.
I grew up in Delaware. All my friends, family, everything I knew, my whole entire life is there. Went to college in Pennsylvania, had a little bit of a life there, friends, everything there. And then when I came out to LA, I had to kind of leave all that behind. It's a very selfish pursuit of career to want to leave everything you know, every person you know, family. I haven't seen, there's family members I haven't seen in 5-6 years. So it's certainly a selfish pursuit. But on the other hand, why am I doing it? I'm not doing it for money. I'm not doing it for fame. I'm not doing it for recognition or awards. I'm doing it because I want to make a difference. And I want to create art that's going to speak to people and help people and sort of impact them and change their lives. That's why we started this podcast.
That's right.
So hopefully there's the cost is worth, the opportunity cost is worth the end goal.
Hopefully, yes. I would ask you this, though.
Mm.
Were you a father that left his children to do this? Were you, did you have a company and you had to fire everyone to go do this? I think what's important is to also put yourself in perspective of the roles you have in your life. And I'm also thinking of Gladiator too.
Yeah.
You have to be mindful of what your role is. And so was that selfish of you to, after you got your degree, pursue the career that you wanted to pursue? I don't know. Because does that mean you should have stayed home in Delaware? Does that mean you should have stayed with your friends in Pennsylvania? I think that at that age that you were, to me, that's what you do.
Right.
So I'm not saying this to be argumentative at all. I'm saying this because I think you might be a little hard on yourself on that one.
Sure.
Quite frankly, because this is a real passion for you, and like you said, you've come out here to make a difference.
Yeah.
And so, and it didn't burn bridges, did it?
No.
Right on.
Yeah, I think you're right. That's a good way to. That's kind of sort of a good perspective to see it from. That it depends on your situation.
It does, and I don't want
scenario.
you flogging yourself at all.
Right.
Thinking like, oh, that was so selfish of me to do that.
Mother been, knock on wood, sick and in the hospital, and I'm just, nope, see you, gotta go,
Exactly.
That's different.
Right. Once you grow
Situational
wings, you gotta use them.
Yeah, you gotta fly. Yeah.
You gotta fly, and that's what you did. So, and also, I just want to say, hats off to you, because that takes a lot of courage to do what you did, to leave everything.
Sure.
To your point.
Yeah.
To come to a place where you didn't really. Did you know anyone when you moved here?
I moved with my best friend from high school, my childhood best friend at the time.
Is he still here?
We moved together. No. But he was gone within 6 months.
See, I'm sorry, I laughed. I don't like, I only laughed because I thought, I had a feeling you were going to say no. Because this is the right place for you to be. And you came for really good reasons.
And he didn't have any goals, dreams, desires here in LA. To his, I don't know, kudos, if you want to say.
Sure.
He got me here. I couldn't have done it without him. I couldn't have moved alone.
He was the delivery system, so to speak.
Right, yeah. We did the drive together. My mom was with us as well. Drove the U-Haul. And then,
nice.
Obviously, the two of us, we got a place together. We put our money together to get... So, definitely without him, it wouldn't have been possible.
Okay.
So, he got me here. That's what matters.
Yeah.
He's got to do what's best for him at the end of the day.
Awesome.
So, once opportunities came up for him in his world of construction, he took those opportunities.
Good for him.
Which makes complete sense.
Good for
I
him.
would have done the same thing.
Yeah.
So I took my opportunities. He
Yes,
took
you
his. So what we're gonna do with Gladiator
Yeah.
is Gladiator 2. Sorry, I gotta remember to put that 2 in there because they're two very different films. Well,
Yes.
depending what you're looking at. Well, we're gonna break down 4 different characters and how their approach to life and how they live impacts the people around them and their fate in the
Okay.
film. And so I want to start with Acacius, who is played by Pedro Pascal. He's the general of the army of Rome. And he wins a battle. For context, he goes to Lucius is living, I forget where he's living at, but the Pedro Pascal's character, Acacius, comes in, wins the battle, and he's to be honored in Rome by the emperors. But he just wants time with his wife.
Yeah.
He doesn't care about the glory, about the crown, about any kind of bestowment, or, he's talking to the emperors and they're like, we'll have a celebration for you. We'll have the game. We'll host the games in your honor and your name. And he's kind of like, yeah, can I just get time off to be with my wife? That's all he wants, really. He doesn't care about the glory or anything like that. North Africa, that is where the first battle takes place. So he does what he has to do, but he has no real desire to win. He has no real desire to fight and to kill people and to win these battles.
Because what's he doing it for?
Because he sees what it's become under the rule of these twin emperors, where they're sort of, we'll get into them later, but the vision of Rome and the free people, it's all gone away. It's now just about conquering and how much can we expand? How far can we expand our reach?
Right, rather than making sure that things are okay at home, which they clearly weren't.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So what he really wants, and we learn in his conversation when he is finally with his wife, and she's got to tell the maids, the housekeepers, to scurry off. Yeah. He wants Rome to be returned to its former glory, to the dream of what Rome, as he sees it, should be. And that's Rome to be free and for it to be back to a republic and be run by the people. And he says a very important line in that conversation with her. He says, I will not waste another generation of young men for their vanity. So here is this great general, and he's going into battle, and he's winning these battles, but he's having to see men die by the hundreds, thousands.
Right, and what's it all for?
Just to conquer another city.
And he wasn't driven by his ego.
Right, exactly. There's nothing in it for him. He's just doing what he has to do to survive, basically.
That's right. And
this is his duty.
That's right. And he's not bloodthirsty.
And he's not
clearly.
bloodthirsty. And he just wants to do what he has to do. But it comes to a point where he says in that conversation with her as well, I can't do it with these emperors anymore. I'm at my limit, basically. Like, I've reached my end.
The two meth heads?
Yeah, the two meth heads. That's a good one. Because of this attitude, because of the person he is, and again, calling back to the theme that we're talking about here, living for others, having other people in mind. He's won over the people of Rome.
Absolutely.
As we see in the games and everybody's chanting. Yep. He's like favored by the citizens of Rome.
Yes.
And he's got the army behind him.
Right.
They're ready at any beck and call to come to his beck and call at a moment's notice because of the person he is, his integrity and his character.
Right. Yep.
And so his memory won't be forgotten. People will fight for him. And that's what happens when you, like the Dalai Lama said, when you help other people, then other people want to help you. It's a two-way street.
Absolutely true. They also saw that he was willing to put his life on the line in every battle. I mean, the one battle we saw, he was very brave. He was right out there, right out front.
Yeah.
He wasn't a general who was hiding the back and calling all the troops forward.
Yeah. It's kind of like I'll try my best not to mention the first movie at all. But in the first movie, we see that with Maximus. He's on the battlefield.
Yes.
He's got the sword in hand. He's riding a horseback.
That's right.
And then the emperor's son, Joaquin, is back hiding at the palace. Now, where were you?
Right.
So many times throughout history, we see that.
Yes.
Where it's like, oh yeah, we see it in Game of Thrones as well.
That's right.
We
sure did.
Joffrey, it's like, where were you at? Oh yeah,
Right. His mother called for him.
So, right. Yeah, I couldn't go. But when you're there, when you've got the sword in your hand, That's a lead. That's a true leader who's going to be with you right next to you.
Mm-hmm.
You'll fight for him
Absolutely.
any day of the week. So that's sort of the first character that we see that kind of is living for others and is reaping the benefits of that.
Mm-hmm.
And then we come to the emperors.
Sorry.
Emperors Geta and Caracalla, played by Joseph Quinn and Fred Heschinger. These two were a piece of work, man.
Weren't they?
I mean, that is like, you said meth head. That's a better way to describe them. Just drunk on power. I mean, filthy drunk on power, fame, success, their legacy.
Potentially syphilitic. Yeah.
What do you think? Because when I was talking about this film, when I was thinking about this film, which was difficult for me, by the way, because I didn't like the movie. That's a second
Me either.
point.
Okay.
But I found it hard to find what I wanted to discuss. And one of the things I sort of, I don't know, landed on was they're all concerned with legacy back in this time period. It was all about how will you be remembered in the history books? Who's going to know your name? Will you go down in history? Will people be talking about you in 100 years? What was it about that time period where everyone was so concerned with how am I going to be remembered?
That's
we have that to a degree in our lives now, but it seems like much less of a focus. Then it was like everything. It was like,
yeah.
how will your legacy be lamented in history?
At least that's how movies portray it to be.
Sure, absolutely, yeah. Just speaking from this movie.
And that's not a rhetorical question you're asking, is it? That's
no.
Okay, one of the things if I could, take a stab in the dark at that, probably because there were so few books, there was no internet, there was no TV, there were no movies. So keeping records of things was much more difficult. And so to make a statue of someone, well, if you've got a statue made, you did something and you will be remembered.
Right.
But all of the masses, their names will quickly be forgotten because where are they recorded? Where are they being passed on?
Yeah, where's the slave class?
So, yeah.
Where are they at?
And I think life back then, probably, most people were under feudal systems, whatever. Most people were quasi-cannon fodder.
Yeah.
Life expectation was very short. Sure. Your life was going to be pretty grim. Look, that's part of the reason why the Catholic Church was able to, because to grow, it inspired. You come into a cathedral. Oh my God.
Right.
It's just mind-blowing.
Gave people some hope. Yeah, something to believe in.
So I think that was probably part of the obsession of being known, because also if you're going to be known for generations, you're probably leading a pretty good life.
Right.
Relatively to everyone else.
Definitely. And we see that with the emperors. They're so concerned with their legacy and how they will be remembered, not for how the people thought of them and were they good characters and did they have friends? And no, it was, we're going to conquer the world.
Yeah.
We're going to just expand our reach and continue again and again and again. We see it with their interaction with Pedro Pascal's character, Acacius. They're like so bewildered with joy. And
right.
We have to celebrate. And he's kind of like, okay, sure. Their concern is like, no, we're doing good here. This is our legacy. We're going to be the emperors who conquered the world. Like, we're going to be known and remembered as that. And they're just so drunk on this power and wanting to expand that.
For sure. And really having no sense of what their role is actually about.
Yeah.
Because if you're going to be leading a society, a people, there are probably some basic fundamentals that some boxes you want to tick. Is there sanitation? Is there food? Is there commerce? Is there safety from invading hordes? Is there law and order? Is there structure?
How are the people of Rome? How are the citizens that you are?
Well, and all the more. Sorry, I don't want to interrupt your
There's
thought.
no concern.
That's right. There's no concern. And also think about the contrast, because look, the first city in the world to ever have 1 million inhabitants was Rome, and it was the most advanced civilization
At the time, yeah.
at the time, and there was a contrast between what they had been and what they had become.
Yeah.
And I think that's what made it all the more painful
When it fell.
when it fell,
Yeah.
because it was extraordinary for a time. And what was the rule of the Roman Empire? I believe 800 years, roughly.
Yeah, insane.
That's really impressive.
Yeah,
They were
it's a
doing a
very long
lot of
time.
things right.
Yes.
But then you could see that this is where the corruption had invaded every level of this society in Gladiator 2.
Absolutely.
And Acacius wanted nothing to do with it.
And that speaks a lot to the person he was and the character.
Absolutely. And he also just didn't want to play the game
Right.
at all.
Didn't want to be a part of it.
Right, as
blame him.
contrasted by Denzel Washington's character, who's all about the game.
And we'll talk about that.
And
Trust me.
okay then.
So these emperors, this drive that they have, they become ignorant to the people of Rome and their true opinions of them.
Very true. Well,
If it came to bats, none of these people would care about you at all. If you were down and out and needed help, they're looking the other way.
Well, exactly, and that's where, did you notice the soldiers turning their bow and arrow on the crowd?
Yeah.
Right. That's, if you are a quote unquote leader like they were, you just have to. The people don't love you, so you have to terrorize them. You have to remind them that they are your subjects.
Right.
Oof.
Yeah, that's the moment where you see it's gone as far as it can.
Yeah.
I mean, that's as far away as possible from what.
When you turn your own soldiers against your own people,
Oh, you're in a bad spot.
very, very
You're in
bad
a
spot.
corner.
In whatever era you live in, whatever society you're in, if your own military has turned against its own people, nice time to move.
Yeah. Time to get out of there.
Yeah.
Time to run. Time to flee.
Road trip.
So Caracalla, which is the one with the monkey,
Yeah.
he feels belittled by Geta and slowly builds resentment towards him, which is then fueled by Macrinus, Denzel Washington's
he
character,
worked it.
who convinces him to kill his brother. But he's also so blind to his own ambitions. Why would you want the throne to yourself? Why would you want, you know what I mean? Why would you turn on your own brother?
And so easily, too.
He's left completely vulnerable to Macrinus, who obviously, we see what happens there.
Yes, we did.
So that's a case against, we see Acacius, who has the people behind him, and now we see these two emperors who have the people against them. And so Acacius living for the people, considering those around him, being empathetic to those, wanting to restore Rome to freedom, and then the emperors whose only concern seems to be power, legacy, ambition, conquering no matter the cost. And again, meanwhile, they're sitting in the palace with their feet up,
Right.
eating some grapes with some women around,
Boozing.
boozing,
Yeah.
while Acacius has got blood splatter on his face,
Right.
and he's stabbing grown men in the face
Yeah.
while he's looking them in the eyes.
That's right.
You know what I mean? Like, this is what's
Good
happening.
point.
But when you're behind, the curtain, if you will,
Yeah.
you're not seeing that.
No. Not experiencing it.
So I want to get into Lucius and Macrinus, but why don't we do a bad guy break first?
Let's do that. Bring it.
This was an easy one. There's a lot of bad guys who fall under this category of selfish antagonists who kind of just are out for their own gain. I mean, the list is endless. So I just kind of had to pick my favorite one.
I love it.
So I'm going to, as always, I'm going to give you 4 hints to pick this bad guy. Okay? So the year is 1988. That is the year that this film came out. 1988.
You weren't even a gleam.
I wasn't even a twinkle in someone's eye.
No, you weren't.
My mom was 18.
I was already haggard in 88. Yeah. Your mom was 18?
My mom was 18 in 1988.
So cute. Okay.
The genre is action thriller, straight from IMDb. The setting is 1988 Los Angeles.
I like the setting. I like that.
And the actor is Alan Rickman.
Oh, you chose Alan Rickman.
I chose Alan Rickman.
Because he's the bad guy.
He's the bad guy in this 1988 action thriller taking place in Los Angeles. Do we have any guesses?
Well, I've
Seen the...
yeah.
Oh,
so
damn it.
but
So that's Hans Gruber from Die Hard.
yeah.
Hans Gruber.
Hans Gruber.
Hans Gruber. Hans is the ultimate selfish antagonist.
Yeah.
He's willing to do anything, include use violence and literally sacrifice people
Mm-hmm.
in order to accomplish his goal, which is monetary gain by
Yeah.
robbing Nakatomi Plaza.
That's
So-
right. I love that.
This guy, it didn't matter who you were. You could have probably been his brother. He'd have killed you.
Mm-hmm.
If it meant that he got away scot-free
Mm-hmm.
and he had the money and he accomplished what he wanted, which was to erase his involvement and get away with the money. Oh, it didn't matter if you were his right hand, if you had been with him for 20 years. He was going to do whatever it took. I mean, he's the perfect...
And he did.
And he did. Oh, he did.
Yeah.
And it's the perfect example, sort of this, like, bad guy, this antagonist who just steamrolls anything in his path to get what he wants. And what happens when you do that? You're going to make some enemies.
A few.
Boy, are you
Yeah.
going to make some enemies.
Yeah.
And
He
people
worked hard to earn them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People will turn on you quick
Yeah. Good point.
in that scenario. If I'm
Good
the
point.
Emperor's man, I'm not sleeping at night.
Yeah.
I'm not I don't you could be my guard that you've been with me for 15 years. You could be it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
He couldn't trust his own brother.
Right?
His own brother killed him. I could, So that's what happens when you get too deep in this like selfish pursuit of gain, personal gain with no regard to any other human beings. It's like you're going to meet a pretty sad ending
Yeah. For sure.
and no one's going to care that you're gone.
Absolutely true.
In fact, people are going to celebrate
Right.
because I'm sure when whispers went through the city of Rome that these emperors died,
Yeah.
there was parties.
Woohoo!
Yeah, people
Yeah.
were boozing and celebrating. Like, my God, we don't have to deal with these maniacs, this tyranny, these
Yeah.
insane, ridiculous characters, which ridiculous they were.
Mm-hmm.
Sidebar.
Yeah, please.
It just felt like they tried to recreate Joaquin's character from the first one.
Yeah, and split him into two people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It just was such a... I've got to get this out.
Yeah,
And then we
please.
can move on.
Okay.
I'm going to get it out of my system.
Get it out, Ryan.
And then I'm going to move on.
Don't hold on to that stuff, man.
This was a clone of the first movie if it was bad. Like if Gladiator 1 was a shit movie
Mhm,
and they
which
made a sequel, this is what it would have been.
But the first one was a bloody
The first one's
classic.
incredible.
Yeah, it is incredible.
My girlfriend and I watched it the next day after we got, because I think we were so...
Just to cleanse yourself of
Plus we
Gladiator
were
2.
thinking to ourselves, why does it feel like that was just the entire story of the first one just retold again?
Because it was.
We were right.
Yeah.
We watched the first one and we were like, yep, there's that.
Yep.
Yep. Somebody dies. Now he's got to fight for him. Now he's got to start at the bottom and he's got to work his way up and somebody's going to buy him and bring him to the city and he's going to fight for it. It just, everything was just boop, 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 boop.
And because it had been done before, look, as you listening to us probably know that the point of our podcast is to talk about what we can learn
Yeah.
and how we can apply things from movies and TV shows to our own lives.
Yeah.
And watching this, there was nothing.
Yeah. I
There was
wasn't feeling a
nothing.
whole lot of
I
anything.
couldn't relate to it. And also this story has been told, and it was told more effectively
In the first movie.
in the first movie.
The point of a sequel to me is to expand the world.
That's right.
To
That's right.
explore it more.
That's right.
And instead here it was just a retelling of the exact same movie I already saw. It's not as if, okay, it's a revenge thriller.
Right,
There's a lot of
right.
incredible revenge movies that are told so differently and separately that you don't have that feeling.
Agreed.
This didn't have that. This was like the plot points, the beats, the scenes, the dialogue,
Yep.
the character motivations. Everything was just cherry picked You know, it's like they were on a time crunch and they were like, you know what?
Yeah.
Why don't we just copy and paste the first one, change a couple things around, and then we'll be all right.
Exactly.
So that's what it felt. So that's out of my system now. We can move on.
Okay, let's move on.
Let's move on to Lucius here.
Okay.
Lucius is the character, our lead character, played by Paul Mescal, who I love. I love Paul Mescal.
Me too.
He's so endearing to me.
Totally agree.
So I feel for him that he was in. This is his experience with Ridley Scott. He didn't get Ridley in his best formative years.
He did get beefy for it.
He got beefed up.
My goodness.
Which I saw in an interview. He said that he was lucky. He came from a sport background.
Okay.
He was a sports kid growing up, so he already kind of had.
Okay.
It wasn't a far jump,
Right.
for him to get into some training and put
Right.
on some muscle. He didn't have to, not necessarily that he didn't have to work as hard, but just that, he already had the body type for
I
it,
believe it.
basically. So shout out to that. We meet him, and he's like Acacius. He really doesn't want anything to do with all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, he's skilled in combat, and he's a leader. We see him, talking to the troops in North Africa. But he doesn't want to. He just kind of, again, is doing what he has to do to survive and get by. He wants to be with his wife.
Right. Well, the first time we see him, he's enjoying domestic bliss.
Yeah, he just
With
wants
his
to,
wife.
that's what he wants, really.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh, time for the battle.
Right.
Here they are. They're
Yeah.
at our doorstep.
Yeah.
Got to put on the suit and armor.
But in this movie, his wife went with him
His wife went, and she was a badass.
She
And She
was.
was out there doing her thing.
for her 4 minutes. She was a badass.
She obviously meets her end, and that obviously is where he gets his motivation in
Yes.
the movie.
Yes.
But he doesn't desire power, fame, money, legacy. He just wants to be at peace, much like Acacius, much like, as we learn later, his father Maximus.
Mm-hmm.
He just wants to be at peace. I don't care. I don't want the money, the fame. I don't want to be the guy.
He just wanted one head.
I want one head after,
Right.
things
After-
happen.
Right.
Once he learns his true name and lineage, he welcomes this idea that his father had of Rome. And that's again, I'm going to have to call back to the first film here. There was a dream of Rome that the Emperor Marcus Aurelius spoke to Maximus. I don't know if you remember in the tent where they're like, he's like, it could be only heard through by a whisper, and it's the dream that Rome is to be given back to the people and established as a democratic republic. It's no longer going to be this hierarchy, tyranny by these emperors and people who aren't elected officials. It'll be given back to the people of Rome to establish a republic where everyone is kind of free and equal.
Mm-hmm.
And that sort of resonates with Lucius.
Yeah, for sure.
He kind of takes and embodies that.
Yeah.
We see it how at the end, after he, obviously spoilers if you haven't seen the movie, he kills Macrinus, Denzel Washington's character, and everyone's kind of standing around looking at him, and he belts out that, like, this is what my father would have wanted, this is what the emperor wanted, like, Rome should be restored. Again, like Acacius, that's a guy that you're going to support, that you're going to get behind, you'll go to battle for him, you'll put yourself at risk and harm for someone like that who's, you feel as a person, has your best interest at heart.
That's ultimately what I would think any citizen would want from their leader, to have
Absolutely, 100%.
to have the best interest of the people of that culture, that society, first and foremost.
Yeah, and when you see, we can see it in politics all the time still.
Oh yes,
People get far removed from that, and then they're less relatable
that's right.
to the people. If you feel like they're on a pedestal and they're kind of removed and detached from society because they're living in their mansion and they're doing their lobbying and they're this and that and their corruption. If you believe that about your leader, how could you trust them? How could you vote for them? How could
Right.
you want them to be the leader of the country, to help pass laws that are going to govern the way that you live your life? It gets a little fuzzy there. And I think all of us, or most of us, can say that we want a leader who is in touch with the people.
Absolutely.
Who he's going to be. And I know this is a funny sidebar to think of right now,
Throw it out there.
but Bruce Springsteen, his whole
Absolutely.
get up
I'm with you completely on that.
was that he was he was just a
Yeah.
guy in a blue jeans
That's
and a
right.
fucking white tee.
Well, and he really does show respect to his audience.
Exactly. He spoke to the people. He's like,
Yep.
people are watching him.
And
They're
he's
not
the real
going,
deal.
yeah, they're
He's
not
the
going,
real
this
deal.
is some high up,
Nope.
gimmicky guy who's in his tower looking down at us. He's on the streets with us. He's getting his hands dirty. This is somebody I can support and get behind.
And did you know what he does in every concert? He has his people go early and take people from the nosebleed seats and brings them up front.
Oh, really?
He does that, I think, every concert.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
See, a man
he'll-
of the people.
And he also will give them a 3.5-hour show.
Sure, yeah.
One of my girlfriends way back when in the 80s went to see him in Ireland. We were, she was
that's a cool spot.
living in London, and it was an almost 4-hour show. Fast forward 40 years, still doing it.
Wow.
You know, that's amazing. But that's somebody whose heart's in the right place, doing it for the right reason. He's not doing it to get rich. He's not doing it to be famous. He's doing it because he absolutely loves it, and it's also a way that he knows that he's connecting with people.
Exactly. That's what it amounts to. And
Yeah.
it served him well. And people love Bruce.
I love Bruce.
Universally
Yeah.
loved.
Yeah.
And that's what happens when you live for people outside yourself. When you're not, your biggest concern isn't, well, that's debatable. Your biggest concern should be yourself, but you're concerned with more than that. You're not selfish. It's a selfless pursuit. Even if it's not my main driving force, I am aware of my effect on those around me. And I am empathetic to other people despite not being in their shoes. You have to have that here as somebody like Lucius, who we see is a badass mother,
Yeah, he is.
and he could just about kill anybody who steps in front of him. But he's still got that humility.
Mm-hmm.
To have that level of skill and be able to, you could easily slip and fall into a prideful.
Absolutely true. What I think part of what makes that possible for Lucius is the fact that he was sent away at the age of 7 or 8
Yeah.
to North Africa.
Yeah.
And he lived a very common life, if you will.
Very different.
He wasn't treated like the prince. He was treated like, I don't know what, but one of the comments that was made early on was how much he embraced life, the life that he had in North Africa. He completely embraced it.
Yeah.
And I think that probably established him with a foundation of humility and understanding of community.
Yeah, he lived he was in it.
Yeah.
He was there.
Absolutely.
On the ground floor, living amongst
genuine.
the people.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe that served him well. Like, he's lucky to
I
have
would say so.
been in that scenario, some
Yeah.
might say. And it comes through when there's a scene where he first has to prove his skills second time, where he's in the palace with the emperors and they bring in this.
Yep. And he's saying to the guy, "Hey man, let's not do
Let's
this
not-
for
let's not."
their amusement."
Right. He sees right through it. Things go forward anyway.
He has to kill him.
He's got to do what he's got to do. He, pieces this guy up pretty easily.
Yep.
And then the emperors are so taken back by this. They're so impressed by and they have an exchange where he quotes this poem, and in it,
Yeah.
I forget exactly what the words are, but the emperors say to him how amazing that you have seen hell and have come through,
Mm-hmm.
something along those lines. And it just speaks to his character. You got to you got to get some grit. You got to get some dirt under your fingernails.
Yeah.
If you've never been around the people, you've never
Yep.
been there, how can you really truly understand
Absolutely true.
and empathize with them?
I think what was hard for the meth head emperors too was the fact that they could see right then they couldn't buy him.
Right.
They saw that right then that he was not going to be a puppet for them.
Correct.
particularly in the Joseph Quinn character.
that goes up to him face to face.
Oh, he got it.
Yeah, he was like,
He got it. This guy's trouble, but
yeah.
he's very skilled, and we need to have him on our side.
and Macrinus kind of has to like, it's okay. He's, he's just quoting the poem. And through Lucius, we kind of we get the idea throughout the film of how Maximus's legacy is still intact, about how much he still echoes through the people of Rome. His dream, like it's still kind of there. And the people of Rome remember him and remember what he had preached and what he had said and fought for. And so that kind of leads us into Macrinus and how he knew that he had to kill, I'm blanking on her character name at the moment, his mother, Lucius's mother.
Yeah.
Maximus's
wife.
Maximus's, I don't think they were ever married, right?
Oh, no, you're right. They were not married.
They just had an affair, I guess we're supposed to agree.
Yeah.
That they had an
totally
affair.
True.
That is the reason. Lucilla?
We'll go with that.
Macrinus realizes that he can't, as long as she's alive, then that dream is still alive. And so he can't rule until she's dead. And so that'll lead us into Macrinus, our final character we're going to discuss, who, like the emperors, has selfish pursuits. And he's an intelligent guy. He's witty,
Absolutely.
He's smart, he's intelligent, and he uses that to his advantage. And understands and kind of knows. He's so smart that he knows other people aren't as smart as him, and he can use
Very true.
what their ailment against them for his own gain. So his dream, obviously, as we find out and see by his actions, is to be emperor. He wants to be king.
For sure.
It's not enough to be the king of the gladiators, as they call him. That's like,
Yeah.
I'm on the cusp, but I'm not really there. I'm not in the palace.
It's like Farm Club versus,
Exactly.
Yeah.
He doesn't really have that title, and he wants that.
He sure does.
Desires that.
Because he had been a gladiator.
He had been a gladiator, you're right? He uses his wits and his cunning ways to win over the majority of Rome.
Yeah.
A lot of people like him.
Yeah.
He's a pretty well liked guy in the not only in the political sphere, but amongst the people.
Agreed. I would also say that amongst the actors in that film, I would say he had the best time. Denzel.
I would say he had the most to work with.
He did have the most to work with.
He had the most interesting character, the
He
most
did.
dynamic character.
He did. And he made it work.
And he knocked it out of the park.
He did.
He had a
knock it out
phenomenal
of the park.
performance.
I totally agree.
He was amazing.
Because he was riveting to watch.
He was the best part of this movie.
He was hands down the best part of the movie.
He was like the,
we love Paul
the saving
Mescal.
grace. Yeah,
But watching Denzel at work was fascinating.
perfect role for him.
Yep.
I love that he was cast in
Yeah,
this.
he chewed it up.
So his dreams to be emperor, he uses people's desires against them for his own gain. And we see that in many different ways. So he does it with Lucius. He says, I see rage in you. That's what I like.
Right.
What do you want?
Right.
You want the head? I'll deliver the head to you. But you're going to help me get what I want. And boy, does he ever. And then he starts making bets with Senator Thrax. He realizes that the senator's got a problem. He's a betting man and he can't help himself.
Yep.
So he keeps bet until he owns his house.
Literally, yes.
Walks into his home. He says, I own this place, right?
Right.
Which is crazy.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. What a I love that scene.
Sorry, me too. And that guy's supposedly the impression we have. He's one of the most influential senators.
Correct. And that's why he has sort of this relationship, this friendship with him. He's, again, Macrinus is not stupid.
Nope.
He knows that this is the guy he's got to get on the right side of.
Exactly.
And then he pits Caracalla against his brother, the Emperor Caracalla. He comes to him and says, your brother's kind of this and that. And he kind of just feeds into... It's genius the way he doesn't really need to say it. He just has to kind of infer. You'll come to the conclusion yourself. Let me just plant a little bit of
Took
seeds
about
here.
19 seconds
Yeah,
for him to convince,
to
for
be
the
like,
guy to convince
I'm
him
gonna kill my
to kill
brother
his
now.
brother.
Yeah, yeah. And the crazy part is, he did all that just to die alone.
Yeah. True.
He steamrolled and bulldozed past everybody in his way. For what? Just to end up dead and alone in the water, cut in half.
Cut
if
in
I
half.
remember.
Yes, he sure was cut in
He
half.
probably had the best death. I hated the deaths in this. I didn't think there were any good deaths, but he had probably the best death.
Yeah. His disembowelment was great.
To be just, that's how you go.
Yeah.
All that work, huh?
Yeah.
All that fire,
Yeah,
all that passion, all that work you did just to get cut in half.
First you lose an arm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you get cut in half. Yeah.
By the guy that you
Right. Brought up through the ranks.
brought up through the ranks.
Yeah.
Quite the
Quite the irony.
exactly.
Yeah.
So we see with Acacius, Lucius, Maximus, Marcus Aurelius, Lucia, whatever the hell her name is.
She cared about the people. Yep.
And the people respected her and liked her.
That's right.
She's the son of the Emperor Marcus Aurelius, who was the last, who had the dream of Rome, who wanted the people, who cared about the people. All those people had the city of Rome behind them, had genuine support and from the people of Rome, from the soldiers, from anybody that knew them. And then Macrinus and the two meth heads, as you said, died vicious deaths for nothing. How will you be remembered? What's your legacy now? You were a tyrant who got cut in half. You were a tyrant who killed his own brother and then got stabbed. Or did he get his throat slit? How'd Macrinus kill him?
Through the throat.
Stabbed him?
Yeah.
What does that tell us? The Dalai Lama, man.
Absolutely.
Wise for a reason.
I totally agree. I think something else that's really important from this is history repeats itself. And I really, I know that sounded profound. I didn't make that up, actually.
Heard that somewhere before.
Maybe. Probably
Maybe
from
time
me
or two.
earlier.
Right.
No, I'm kidding. But that's part of what makes studying history so important and understanding mistakes that were previously made.
Yes.
And I try to think about any kind of parallels that could be drawn with our society today and what we see in movies like Gladiator 2. And it just makes me think that you have to have a populace that understands what's happened before.
This is why we need to be educated on history. This is why we take history in school.
That is absolutely true.
You need to know about the Hitlers. You need to know about the Stalins.
That's right.
So that it doesn't happen again.
That's right. And you need to understand the context that made those horrific people possible.
Yeah.
And also care. See, and the more you understand it, I would think the more you're going to care.
Sure.
The more you're going to understand.
The more empathy you grow.
Right. And also understand the fragility if you have a few really bad actors.
Yeah. How far it can go.
How far it can go and how many people can be profoundly and deleteriously affected. Haven't used that word in a long time. That's really good.
Word.
Thanks, man.
That.
So
mark that one.
but you know what I'm saying?
I feel you, man, 100%.
So this is where there is a place for movies like this.
Yes. Well, it won't be on my list of. I will not do a return watch on this.
Nor will I.
Even though I've watched the first Gladiator 7 times, maybe. Or
You've
more.
inspired me. I'm probably going to watch it in the next night or two.
Highly recommend.
Yeah.
I forgot how damn good it is,
It was inspired.
Amazing Russell Crowe.
Russell Crowe was amazing.
I sent her a clip I saw where he was talking about how his first day on set, Ridley came up to him and was like, I'm just going to put the camera here. I'm going to shoot you. Imagine that you're looking at the battlefield. You see a bird and it flies away.
Oh, that's right. I remember this.
And then bring your attention back to the battlefield. And he said he did that. And then Ridley came up to him and goes, me and you are going to be fucking great together, mate.
Because he just executed on that.
Nailed
He
it.
nailed it.
Nailed it. He's so good in that. One of my favorite performances.
Totally agree.
So let's wrap this thing up, huh?
Let's do it. Let's wrap
Wait.
it.
Before we get to the wrap.
Yeah.
5 recommendations.
Let's hear them.
If you liked Gladiator 2, or if you want to see movies like it, these are... if you like Gladiator, the original 2, these are 5 movies that are kind of like... Some are revenge stories, some are kind of set in that Roman time period. The first one's The Northman.
God, I've never seen that.
Oh, Robert Eggers. 2022 film starring Alexander Skarsgård. You can watch that on
need to see
Peacock. That is a awesome... I love Robert Eggers. He's doing Nosferatu. Comes out on
Okay.
Christmas.
Oh, wow.
I'm
Yeah, I
excited.
want to see that.
About
Yeah,
that.
me too.
I love all his movies.
Right on.
Immortals, the 2011 film starring
Henry
Henry Cavill, and that's available to rent. That's a good same time period ish. I Saw the Devil. That's a 2010 film starring Lee Byung-hun on Peacock.
Wow. Okay.
And that's a revenge story about a guy who I think if I remember correctly, he does a like capture and release of a serial killer. He finds a serial killer and then like torments him by capturing and releasing him. It's crazy. Crazy
Whoa,
movie.
what a premise.
bizarre movie.
I love it.
Clash of the Titans,
Oh, yeah.
a 2010 film
was
starring Sam
fantastic.
Worthington. You can watch that on HBO Max.
So good.
That's a classic,
Yeah, it
like
is.
good, like that time period
Yep.
movie. And then rounding out the number 5 is Old Boy,
That was so good.
the 2003 film starring Choi Min-sik
So
on
good.
Netflix.
Yeah, it was 2003. That was so good. That movie blew me away.
I left the theater after seeing that movie. I saw it in like a screening, and I remember like, what did I just watch? I'm not really sure what just happened.
I know. In the best way. Yeah.
So Macrinus and the emperors destroyed their legacies and died an early death because of their own selfish ambitions. Acacius and Lucius won over the people of Rome and garnered their support because they wanted what was best for everyone, not just themselves.
That's right.
We must find the balance within ourselves to strive for our own goals and desires while still considering those around us
I totally agree.
and how we might help them.
I totally agree.
So let's button it.
Let's do that.
And thank you so much for joining us today. Remember, as always, you're the main character of your own life. So don't be afraid to take a step back every once in a while and take a look at the bigger picture. Because the answers that you've been looking for might be lying just beyond the frame. We'll see you next time.
Peace.
Peace.